This video is brought to you by Battlezoo Ancestry's Dragons, the book that lets you play as a dragon. Written by Pathfinder veteran Mark Seifter, this book adds over 45 new dragon playable ancestries to Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Now available at battlezoo.com. Hey everybody, Dave here with another Pathfinder rule reminder for you, and today's topic is about persistent damage and weaknesses and resistances. So on my previous rule reminder video we talked about splash damage and whether or not splash damage would inflict a weakness twice on an enemy, once for the principal initial damage of that attack and then trigger that same weakness again for the splash damage. And you can watch that video for details. The answer to that is no, but a lot of people in the comments asked, well, what about persistent damage? Persistent damage is the same type, so therefore is it also pulled in with the initial damage and therefore not affected by things like weaknesses and resistances? And the answer here is going to be that yes, persistent damage is affected by both resistances and by weaknesses. So it is going to be its own separate pool of damage that is separate from the initial damage that's applied by whatever effect was applying that damage. So keeping things with the same example as before, maybe you have an acid attack that deals acid damage when it hits, and then it also applies persistent acid damage as well. That initial acid damage is going to have all the resistances, immunities, and weaknesses applied to it as normal for acid damage, and then the persistent damage later is also going to trigger those resistances and weaknesses as well. And the main reason why you're not going to pull the persistent acid damage in with the initial acid damage is because it occurs at a different time. When you have your attack and you deal the initial damage, that's going to be on your turn. You're attacking, it's going to be on your turn when you're dealing that damage. Persistent damage does not apply until the end of that affected creature's next turn. So it really is that simple. Even though persistent damage is applied at the time of the initial attack, it doesn't take effect until later, and therefore it's going to be its own separate pool of damage, and that is going to make persistent damage very, very, very deadly. If a creature is weak to that persistent damage, it's going to trigger that weakness every single round until they find some way to mitigate and deal with that persistent damage, whatever that damage type is. Make sure you check out my other videos on persistent damage that kind of go into the details of the process for getting rid of that persistent damage. I'll make sure I leave links to those in the description of this video. If you have any suggestions for future rule reminders, please let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, let me know those in the comments as well. And as always, I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to everybody out there who supports me, whether that's through giving me your suggestions, sharing the videos with your friends, liking the videos, subscribing to the channel, subscribing to the Patreon. Thank you so much for everything you do to support me. And with that, thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.